Well, I have a guilty confession on the review portion. I didn't fly. I never got a chance to get my hands on the sticks of the Tiger Moth. Rob just
no, you didn't.
Me.
That's
He wouldn't let me do it. He
nope.
gets that way sometimes.
I do. I get selfish. What can I say?
He isn't that much bigger than me, but he fights dirty. So
I've got a few years of experience.
I choose to just bail out. Ooh, you just let out. You let it out.
Doesn't matter.
You know how many
everybody always
how
asks.
many users or how many users? How many viewers actually ask that question?
And everybody always asks the question,
older?
and they always guess.
Yeah, they do.
Yep, they guess right.
They look at you, man. Those lines on your face, and it just wore
Years
down.
putting up with you.
Head's kind of hung a little bit, where you just wore out.
Thought I had a good life at 4 years old.
Got that little hitch in your giddy up when you're walking. Let's get to the scoring. Model characteristics. Build as advertised. You give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it comes out of the box ready to go. There's nothing to be done.
Now, what about the packaging?
Well,
yeah.
Let's put it this way. It may not be this way for all of them, but they gave somebody in the factory, a newbie, a roll of masking tape and said, go to town.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Don't let it move. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I've never seen a plane packed with so much masking tape, and they wrapped masking tape around the transmitter against the styrofoam. The glue is all over the transmitter.
Still stuck to the transmitter?
Still stuck to the transmitter. I about ripped the plane in half trying to get the masking tape.
I know you're pretty.
Oh, that's frustrated.
Once you get it out, then you can use half of the tape they gave you.
Just pull it out of there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds trivial.
It doesn't.
Man,
It doesn't affect the bill's advertising, but it's something you might expect. So take a couple extra minutes to pull all your tape off. So
it's like Christmas morning with your kids' toys. You sit there for the rest of the day unpackaging them with all the little clips and wires and plastic and stuff. Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't swallow any pieces.
No, I didn't.
So you're moving forward.
I don't think so.
Finish. You gave it a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. It's a very sharp looking plane, and we're starting to see a bit of a shift in the way these micros are being done. They're molding a lot more detail.
Too, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the decals are on a lot of them are second to none now.
It used to be like these stickers laid on top, and now, like you said, it's almost like a water form where it lays down into the detail of the skin.
You know, it's close to paint. And, but yeah, it's a very attractive plane. A lot of detail molded in. It's nice looking. Yeah. And the pilots are extremely aerodynamic.
They are. They're like me, tall and narrow head. It's like looking at a flounder. Isn't that a flounder?
Can't see it coming at you.
Can't see it coming at you until it turns. It's a billboard. All right, moving on. Power. You gave it a 4 out of 5 on power.
Sorry. Yeah. Power. It's got plenty of power, no doubt. You don't find yourself wishing it had a little more, and it doesn't ever really feel overpowered. Of course, I didn't fly this at full power at any one point. And we'll get into that later as flight is advertised. But it's amply powered.
Yeah. Ground handling, you gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
I tell you what.
That was one of the first comments you made.
That was actually the very first comment I made. As soon as that propeller turns, your rudder has authority, and you can turn that thing like it has a steerable tail wheel on it.
Yeah.
I was extremely surprised with that.
Almost equally left and right.
Oh,
you
definitely.
didn't have tremendous torque effect. Yeah.
No, not at all. And the fact that it's a magnetic actuator, I mean, yes, they're responsive, but they tend to be, I don't know, I guess.
Well, they're more prone to blowback.
They're more prone to actually being deflected by the prop wash.
Blowback.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Whatever you want to call it.
Okay. We'll keep the technical terms out of it.
Yeah, don't give any more technical terms. But no, but I was really surprised with the ground handling. And the same goes with ground effect when you're flying it. That rudder is extremely responsive all the way to touchdown. I was impressed with it. I was very.
It seemed to come into ground effect nicely. You didn't have any bobbing or anything.
And taking off, it was a nice smooth transition taking off.
Yeah, you could do very scale takeoff on it.
Very much so.
All right, next is durability. You gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
You know, with all the aforementioned magnets and stuff, now you could break it obviously, but you're going to shift a lot of things in I would say in a light to moderate hit with no power on, just gliding in, smacking into something. There's, the inertia is going to be absorbed by those magnets.
And it got bounced around a little bit during testing.
Yeah, it did.
It didn't even. And I thought maybe that we would find that the magnets would let go, but I mean they were really strong, and everything stayed right back. In fact, I bet you flew it that last round with the wing all.
Yeah, it could.
Cattywampus, as they say.
It could be why I used more fuel.
But the fact that you used fuel in the first place. Pilot experience, flight as advertised. You give it a 4 out of 5.
Yes, I did, and that's fair. And let me explain a couple of things with flight as advertised. what I noticed with with our particular model, and I'll say it's with our particular model because it may not be across the board, it needed to be trimmed like all planes do, but trimmed to the point where any kind of throttle input, it just started porpoising terribly.
Well, climb too. You'd want to stall climb.
Yeah, it's just stall climb.
When you first took it off, you were stall climbing.
I had to put a lot of down trim on the elevator in order to get it to fly level. Now, the fact that I put the trim in it to fly level, it was still pitch sensitive on throttle. If you gave it, like I said, I didn't fly at full throttle at any one point because no matter how much down, I had to actually hold the elevator down to get it to fly. And then when you're holding elevator down or holding elevator up, when you're increasing throttle, it becomes that much more pitch sensitive.
Yep.
Any tiny little movement and you were either diving or climbing. But at about half throttle, it would settle in and fly nicely. I didn't have any problem with that. It's one of those it's got a very fine edge, a fine line, I guess you could say, on its trim. Once you get it trimmed out, it flies pretty well, but you're always kind of riding that edge.
It's a balance between the under camber, the down thrust on the prop, and the in that lift you get when you add throttle.
You got it.
Yeah, it was. You know what? I did actually fly this. I have to retract my earlier statement. Oh, I flew it very briefly. That's right. Well, it's good.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
It's good. It's good.
I'm not selfish. You know
I do have some knowledge of it. And what it was is I just did a once up and down with it.
Oh,
and that's when I said the trim was, we had to trim it. I said we had to trim it. Not being a micro guy, but I thought, trim's off in this thing, Rob. What do you mean? It's fine. It's great. Just wants the porpoise. No, try it with this trim setting. Yeah. It was a long discussion, but you're right. It was a matter of getting that balance between when you came in for your approach, you really felt at a dead stick. When you were gliding it in, that down trim was taking off on you. Yeah. Add a little bit of power, and then it leveled right out. And was comfortable. So I think with ours, what we learned too is as I watched you fly it more and more, it's keeping a little bit of that throttle on. Oh yeah. It's not really a dead sticker.
You have to use, no, it's not. You have to use throttle management,
which is a bipe anyway. Bipes have they just drag down. So
I didn't find it detrimental at all as far as the flight characteristics. It's just an element that you have to be aware of, and it flew fine. It flew very well.
Okay, flight time, you gave it a 4 to 5.
We got quite a bit of flight time out of it. We took it up and down several times to try to get the right look or the right pass for landing.
And such a tiny little battery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you could up that battery size. I think you comfortably...
I think the airframe could handle it,
Yeah, you could easily put a 70 milliamp, or I know probably 70 milliamps is probably getting hard to find now, but...
I'm thinking, 250, 300, 2-cell.
No.
Maybe?
No.
No, but you could put a, like the old 70 milliamps,
exactly.
Like that.
But again, I think you could
like Y too. We got such great run times off of it.
Exactly.
You just pick up a couple more batteries from Aries and you're ready to go.
You got it. Yeah, it's not.
Every time you increase that weight, even at that tiny scale, because this is so light. I mean, we're looking all up weight of 0.5 ounces. Yeah. 14 grams of a 2 or 3 gram difference in the battery is going to affect the flight.
Well, and one thing too that we didn't mention in flight is advertised is it's not nose heavy to fly, but as soon as you get that tail off the ground, it wants to nose over. Yeah. So adding a little bit bigger battery might increase that tendency to do that.
You got to hang on the elevator more during takeoff. So Field size. Small park, gymnasium. Yeah. I mean, outdoors, dead calm. With the heavy under camber going on, with the fact it's a bipe, and the fact that you've got an actuator. But you know what? We've tested their little stick 75s.
And we flew those in wind that we should have never been able to fly them in.
And they handled it.
They handled it. It would be interesting to see how this does. Half an ounce.
I'm sure it'd be a handful because it's so light.
Yeah. Plus, you've got 2 wings to catch now. And
Yep. Portability, you gave it a 4 out of 5.
Get that masking tape out of there, and by golly, you got yourself a carrying case.
Well, it won't fall out of the box that way. Skill level, you have beginner, intermediate.
Yes.
Or actually, you got an arrow.
I've got it in between. I've got it in between beginner, intermediate, pointing more towards the intermediate. And the reason is because of the trim issue that we mentioned before. It's going to be a fine line, and if you're not familiar with this thing almost, I guess, could be best compared to flying on the wing. It'd be the closest thing for micro. And that's not a bad thing.
But everybody in RC gets used to not flying on the wing.
Exactly.
Flying on the wing means you're actually relying of course, I'm sure many of you know, but for those who don't, flying on the wing is when you rely on the lift characteristics of the airframe and assist that function with the power plant, meaning you can't horse yourself through all different types of flight with the power plant.
Yeah.
It relies on that airframe. And you know, a good example of that would be in RC is often a slightly or near underpowered scale design.
Exactly.
Oh, this thing has terrible, you know, it's terrible. You can't fly it. Wrong. You can fly it, but you actually have to fly it.
You have to fly it.
A real plane doesn't take off at 40-degree angles or 50-degree angles and just go and go and go and go. We're so used to that on the RC side. When you get something that has to fly in the wing, it's kind of a throwback. We found, and this one, not to get wrong, I think what Rob is referring to is it's best flown on the wing.
Yes.
And you'll get the most enjoyment out of it flown on the wing, but at the power plant will yank it through whatever it needs
Sure
to. You could do thrust vectoring, you know, as far as that type of flying on takeoff and stuff. You can horse your way through that stall climb. But, you know, when you have so much power to weight, you can do essentially thrust vectoring. You're just driving that thing through the air, and you're essentially steering the prop. It's drive it up, down, left, right, everywhere you want to go. This does take advantage, and we saw that on the Stick 75s. Another product from Ares. You had to fly those on the wing.
Yeah, you do.
Those are flown on the wing.
But
and it's a blast.
It's a ball, but the learning curve's a bit steep. Is what I'm saying for a beginner. That's the only thing. But once you get some stick time in your hands on a 3-channel plane, and you get familiar, these are not going to do what you expect them to do with a 3-channel plane. Let's put it that way. It's a different type of flying, but it's very enjoyable. It's extremely enjoyable. Like this plane will not rotate. When it's trimmed properly, it won't rotate on its own.
Yeah.
It'll drive right straight down that floor as fast as it'll go.
Keep going.
And you have to pull back on the elevator to get it in the air. If you don't, then you're in that sticky pitch problem of it'll rotate, but it's going to rotate right straight up. It's going to rotate,
and then the only way you can sustain flight, right out of the box, was pull way back on the throttle.
Exactly.
And you were sustaining your altitude, but you couldn't climb.
You couldn't climb.
As soon as you give any throttle at all, it just went up to where.
And then you start porpoising.
Yeah, because you're pushing it forward, and when you're pushing the control surface forward, you're not nearly as accurate as trimming it that little bit.
You got it.
So yeah, it's a good flying plane. It's a
very
interesting experience. And again, if you can take advantage of that flying on the wing flight experience, you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
This airframe flies great. It really does.
Yeah, no bad stall tendency or like bad excessive stall tendency. In fact, it flew really well in a stall condition over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But didn't want to roll around on you. Didn't want to tip stall. Didn't do those crazy things like that.
No, and it held its line really well in a loop too. It didn't want to drift left or right. It tracked right around. It's an enjoyable experience. I found it really enjoyable in a micro. As far as a microplane goes.
You'll fly that again, won't you?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt, I would. Yeah,
and that's, to me, that's a bigger testament because we fly a lot of planes.
Yep.
And a lot of micros, and there are a lot of them that even if they scored well, you're like, it was okay.
Yeah.
It just wasn't memorable, wasn't unique, wasn't interesting. And while you're that era just gets you going anyway.
Well, you know.
That trips your trigger, as they say. But it's a
9-volt batteries do it for you, so. You know, you get into
LiPo batteries.
LiPos, 9 volts, it's all,
That wraps up, fortunately, for you guys, our review of the Ares Tiger Moth 75 Nano-Micro RTF. You can see the full review at 2bfly.com. For mobile users, you can go to rcflightsource.com, download our mobile app, and take our content with you on the go. I'm Kurt with Two Brothers Hobby.
And I'm Rob. Thanks for watching.